Hello, this is Mohammad Mahfuzur Rahman, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Mahmudpur Kendriya College, Dhaka. Today I am going to take a class for the students of Honors Third Year in the Department of English, Mahmudpur Kendriya College under National University. The name of the course is 16th and 17th Century Poetry, and the topic is To His Coy Mistress, composed by Andrew Marvell. Let's see the text To His Coy Mistress by Andrew Marvell. Here we see a picture about the poem To His Coy Mistress. Coy means bashful or hesitant or shyness. A shyness mistress or lady or beloved is shown in the picture, and a lover is shown in the picture. A lover is going to propose his beloved, but the beloved is reluctant to receive his proposal. To His Coy Mistress is a metaphysical love poem composed by Andrew Marvell, and the poem is a famous dramatic monologue written by Andrew Marvell, a great metaphysical poet. It was first published in 1681. The poem comprises the attempts of the speaker to convince his beloved, a mistress, to be ready to make love with him. It also talks about the transience of life, the transient nature of time. However, the popularity of the poem lies in the fact that it deals with the subject of love and immortality of life. As the poem is about a shy mistress, the speaker says that life is not endless and that she would not be shy or hesitant. He asks her to spend all the days of their life together, talks about her physical beauty, and says if time allows him, he will admire every feature of her body before reaching her heart. He also comments on the destructive nature of time and suggests that they should make love before her beauty decays in death. The major themes into his coimiters are love, sex, and mortality are some of the major themes incorporated in the poem. The speaker, with his argument, tries to persuade his shy mistress to sleep with him. To him, the mistress should not say no to him, as the shadow of approaching death will take all the joys of their lives. Therefore, they should seize the present moment of life and enjoy life to the fullest by forgetting the future. If we analyze the poem, we will see that To His Coy Mistress is divided into three stanzas or poetic paragraph. It's spoken by a nameless man who doesn't reveal any physical or biographical details about himself to a nameless woman who is also biographically less. During the first stanza, the speaker tells the mistress that if they had more time and space, her coyness, that means her shyness, wouldn't be a crime, wouldn't be a bad thing. He extends his discussion by describing how much he would compliment her and admire her. If only there was time, he here is here he would focus on each part of her body until he got to the heart. Heart here signifies as metaphor for sex and a metaphor for love. In the second stanza, he says, "But we don't have the time. We are about to die." He tells her that life is short, but death is forever. In a shocking moment, he warns her that when she is in the coffin, Worms will try to take her virginity if she doesn't have sex with him before they die. If she refuses to have sex with him, there will be repercussion for him too. All his sexual desire will burn up ashes for all time. In the third stanza, he says, "Now I have told you what will happen when you die. So let's have sex while we are still young. Hey, look at those birds of prey mating. That's how we should do it. But before that, let's have us a little wine and time." Then he wants to play a game that turns ourselves into a ball game. He suggests furthermore that they release all their pent up frustrations into the sex act and in this way be free. In the final couplet of the third stanza, he claims down a little. He says that having sex cannot make the sun stop moving. In Marvel's time, the movement of the sun around the earth, eh, what we know, what we now know, the earth rotates around the sun, was thought to create time. Anyway, he says we cannot make time stop, but we can change places with it. Whenever we have sex, we pursue time instead of time pursuing us. This fellow has some confusing ideas about sex and time. Come to think of it, we probably do too. To his coy mistress offers us a chance to explore some of those confusing thoughts. So now we are gonna recite the text. Had we but world enough time and this coyness lady were no crime. As you see that they don't have enough time, enough place, and this coyness lady, that means this shyness lady, or if they have lot of time, this coyness of that lady will not be a crime. We would sit down, if we have time, we would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. Thou by the India's Ganges, here it is used as a imagery, and Shudashrup is fined. I by the tide of Humber would complain. This is another imagery. I would love you 10 years before the flood. There is another imagery of the Old Testament of the flood of Noah. And you should, if you please, refuse till the conversions of the Jews. Here another uh, allusion from taken from the Old Testament, the conversion of the Jews into Christianity. My vegetable love should grow. Here it is used as a, my vegetable love should grow. Here vegetable love is used as a hyperbole. My hyperbole should grow faster than empires. Here vegetable love means his stable love, his green, his tender, his beautiful love, deeply rooted, should grow faster than empires and more slow. His love is growing slowly, but it makes faster than empires. And 100 years should go to praise thine eyes. This is a hyperbole or exaggeration. And 100 years should go to praise thine eyes. The lover will praise every part of the every parts of our body with a different time, different years, different duration. And on thy forehead gaze, 200 to adore is breast, but 30,000 to the rest. We know that human life is transient and it is not possible for a man to live 1,000 years. So it is totally an exaggeration or hyperbole. An age at least to every bird, and the last age should show your heart. For lady, you deserve this state, nor would I laugh at lower it. In this stanza, what we see in this first stanza, we go to the analysis of the poem. In line now from 1 to 20, the argument begins with an appeal to coy mistress based on the idea that If time and space are limitless, they could spend their days in leisure. She by the exotic Ganges River, for instance, he by the ebb and flow of the Humber. Sex needn't be a priority in this fantasy world. The speaker's ironic tone even allows us for his love for the lady a decade before the Old Testament flood. That means the flood of Noah. And she could say no to his advance up to the time when the Jews convert to Christianity, which would never even happen, of course. This tongue in check allusions to religious notions of the end of the world, plus the underlying urges for physical intimacy, have been too much for certain Christian groups and others in more modern times. They would like the poem to be banned from being taught in school, claiming that it would negatively influence their children and that it condones predatory male behavior. Years he would spend growing his love like a vegetable grows slowly, rooted and strong in the earth, and he could bide his time admiring her physical beauty, her eyes, forehead, breast, and other parts of his body. This imaginary scenario is a clever and slightly ludicrous setup. He is clearly in awe of her body and totally wants her heart, but because she refuses to comply, he introduces this idea of timeless, boundless love. Time becomes a metaphor for love, but is little more than a limitless source. Next, we see the poem again. In the second stanza, we see that, but at my back I always hear time in chariot hurrying, hurrying near. This is another image. At my back I always hear time in chariot. Here indicates in classical mythology we see that the time always shows by wind chariot. But at my back, I always hear time in chariot hurrying near. That means time is passing very fast, and yonder all before us lie. And we have only, we will die, and we have lots of time for die, but we will not get much time for enjoying this time. Desert of vast eternity. This is an image. Thy beauty shall no more be found, as our time is very short. We are transient. Nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song. Then one shall try that long preserved virginity. Here we see that the poet is appealing, encouraging, or pursuing his beloved that you should not waste your time. If you die, your long preserved virginity or chastity will be distracted, will be taken away by worm, and your quaint honor turn to dust, and into ashes all my lust. So if you try to preserve your virginity without repulsing my love, one day you will die and your long preserved virginity or chastity will be taken away by some worm. So this will be very bad if you do not enjoy present time. You should forget future time. Let's see the analysis from 21 to 32. But all of the previous means nothing because the reality is that the clock is ticking louder and louder. Time is flying, and then one day you find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. Don't look over your shoulder. Don't look ahead. Either because there is a vast desert eternity. The speaker's tone starts to alter, becoming more serious. The future isn't that bright. Her beauty will be lost in the sands of time, even worse. When she is dead and buried only, the worms will experience what he presently longs for. What a challenging space. What a challenging image. And there are some who think quaint honor is an obscure reference to the female private birds. Quaint was used as a noun in pre-Elizabethan times. He too will perish, consumed by his own passion. Nothing but a pile of ash. The last couplet of this section is perhaps the most quoted and puts a seal on the message. Let's make love while we are still alive. Again, we see the concluding stanza of the poem to his coy mistress. Now, therefore, while the youthful hue sits on thy skin like morning dew, and while thy willing soul transpires at every pore with instant fires, now let us port us while we may, and now like amorous birds of prey. Here you see another image, rather at once at our time devour, than languish in his slow chapped power. Let us roll all our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough stripe through the iron gates of life. Thus, though we cannot make our sun stand still, yet we will make him run. In the last two lines, that means the final couplet of the concluding stanza, we see that time will go on and none can stand still or pause time. So you should not waste your time passing. One day you will become old and your beauty will decay and your beauty of skin will wrinkles and you will lose your beauty, your charm, your glamour. The final part of this poem concentrates on the rational summing up of what's gonna be for. Note the first two words, now therefore. It's as if the speaker is saying, look, I have given you two quite valid reasons for you to succumb. Consequently, this final effort will make you see sense. Never has an adverb carried so much weight. And the speaker has clearly thrown out the fantasies and wishes of the previous scene. Gone are space and time and death. In their place is the all consuming present. Just look at the use of the word now. Three times in the line number 33 to 38, suggesting that the speaker cannot wait a second longer for his postponed fulfillment of making love. The emphasis is on the physical skin, sport, roll, and tear. The language being tinged with aggressions and forceful energy. Line 34 is controversial as many later versions change the word glue for dew, whereas in the original it is definitely glue. So the poet used this word to further the image of youthfulness as line 33 imparts. The word glue, now archaic. Archaic means old, use old version of medieval word. Could be the old fashioned word for today's glue, but this wouldn't make sense in the context of the couplet. Sits on the skin like morning glue. What makes better sense is to look for variants of either glow or glee. We still say the skin glows, but do not often say the skin is happy. Her skin has a morning glow. As the lines progress, intensity increases, the passion starts to burn, and when the images of two birds of prey emerge differing type instead of the other way around, the reader is surely taken by beyond mere pleasures of the flesh. Some think the poet is using the symbols of alchemy to express the deep lying sexual chemistry implied in the second unusual image, that of the ball of sweetness to signify the union of male and female. The iron gates could well be the barrier, the threshold through which the speaker wishes to emerge. He sets the imperative. If they come together, then who knows what will happen? Common sense and the logic of time will no longer dictate their lives. Sorry. The style or the theme in this poem is carpe diem thing. It's a Latin expression. This is first used by Roman poet Horace, and literally it means pluck the day, or usually translated seize the day. But now in modern time it is translated into a Latin expression meaning seize the day, used for saying that people should enjoy the present rather than worrying about the future. So here in this poem, the nameless lover is trying to convince her nameless beloved to enjoy the present time and giving up or give away worrying about the future. Uh, okay, my dear students, hope that you will enjoy the poem and you will try to study the poem properly, so line by line and word by word. And if you try your level best to study and write down regularly, you will understand the poem. Okay, until then, Allah Hafiz.